in a world immersed in darkness, where the echo of a crime between brothers still haunted the land. A new hope was born. He did not wield a sword. He did not build cities. But he carried something the world had forgotten: faith. This is the story of Seth. Imagine a stage where darkness seems to reign supreme. Humanity was taking its first steps with shadows in its heart. The first murder had taken place: Abel, killed by his own brother. The garden that once echoed with laughter and flowers now held the sigh of a life cut short. The transmission of sin through generations seemed irreversible. In this dark setting, God broke the silence. He looked at Adam and Eve, broken by disbelief and grief, and said, "I bring a new breath of hope." Thus Seth was born, the appointed one, or God has granted, as some translations suggest. In that name, there was promise and mission. When Seth arrived, Eve, wrapped in a cloud of pain, received the child and witnessed the puzzle of grief begin to come together. "God has given me another son in place of Abel," she whispered, not as one who replaces, but as one who lays a foundation of hope that, though humble, is firm. Picture this scene, the dawn after an endless night. The seed of faith sprouting under the gaze of a mother healed more by the promise than the loss. Consolation became a promise. From this child, a new line of communion with God would emerge. As Seth grew, there was something in him that defied the cultural logic of his time. While the rest of humanity deteriorated in immorality, pride, and violence, he seemed to carry within him a map to reactivate the path of intimacy with God. In the pyramids of pride built by Cain, his cities, his myths, his structures, Seth emerged like an upright tree in dry ground, with invisible yet strong roots, roots that did not seek recognition, but a return to the soil from which the seeds of Eden had once sprouted: faith, communion, and obedience. He heard from his parents stories of a garden where God walked among men, stories no one else believed anymore, stories that seemed too distant. But Seth did not live with eyes fixed on the past. There was no bitterness or rebellion, only a firm purpose, to recover what had not been completely lost, but needed to be rediscovered. On Cain's side, life was noisy. He built cities, raised idols, wove webs of power and pride. He gained earthly applause and drew attention at the cost of himself. Seth and his descendants, on the other hand, were discreet. Instead of grand monuments, they planted fields, sowed in silence, and worshipped in sobriety. Instead of human glory, they sought divine glory. Instead of ambition, they sought intimacy. Instead of noise, reverence. This contrast was an act of choice. Not out of rebellion, but out of obedience. Not from an anti-world spirit, but from faithfulness to the echo of God's promises. When Enosh, Seth's son, was born, something different and moving happened. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. Genesis 4:26. This was not an empty ritual or superficial tradition. It was a cry, a plea for redemption. Amid a land devastated by sin, someone decided to lift the staff of faith. People once again turned to God, not out of habit, but out of need, and all of this happened within the simple structure of a family. In the quiet routine of a faithful father who taught his son the importance of lifting the soul's cry toward the Creator's expression, the lineage continued. Each name, Kenan, Mahilil, Jared. Carried the mark of household faithfulness. But one name stands out: Enoch, the man who walked with God and was taken up, never tasting death. Seth was the generational link that allowed Enoch, centuries later, to confront the very word of God and receive divine promises with the closeness only known by those who walk side by side with the Creator. Seth's testimony echoed in the life of his descendant, a life so aligned with heaven that the earth could no longer contain his presence. The faith of one man became a flame that crossed generations. From Seth to Enosh, and then to Noah, when the limit of divine patience was reached, it was from Seth's lineage that came the man who was righteous and blameless in his generation, the man who walked with God, preached righteousness, and built an ark to restart humanity. The simple act of obeying, of planting faith, of crying out and teaching, made Seth the patriarch of a new humanity in a land that seemed to have chosen darkness, because it reveals that God did not give up on humanity, even after the first murder, because it shows that faith planted in silence can prevent eruptions of evil and inspire future spiritual giants, because it teaches that the difference matters most where it seems least relevant, in a humble home, in a seed of prayer, in a man who values faithfulness over fame. You are a seed of restoration. Just like Seth, you can be the beginning of something greater, even in adverse environments. Family can be a spiritual seed. Teaching at home, praying together, crying out together, this creates eternal impact. Faith in the everyday has power. The world needs fewer war heroes and more followers who pray, work, and obey. We are heirs of a spiritual lineage. Every choice for God sustains generations and shapes futures. Hope in the midst of crisis. When all seems lost, God plants new seeds. Even today, if you've made it this far, feel this breath of hope. Feel it, because we are called to reignite the flame of faith, in ourselves, in our family, in our home. It's not about grand deeds. It's about constancy, prayer, obedience. If you want to keep walking with stories that reignite faith, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If this message touched you, leave a like and comment, what seed of faith will you plant today, and share this story with someone who, like you, needs to be reminded that God always plants new hope.